Hello all and welcome, and I am the MGTOW philosopher. And in this video, I would like to talk about a mainstream news article from the Independent, which appears to be a UK newspaper, and this is from last year. I picked it because it's mainstream, and I wanted to challenge myself and see just how many news articles from mainstream news sources I could find about MGTOW, and it seems there's not many. The only stuff I've been able to find mostly is stuff from crackpots, bloggers, religious idealists who are essentially giving their opinion. Not much else, really. Real articles from, well, whatever you might call a real journalist these days. They're not real journalists anymore, but from an actual news outlet that has actual readers above like 15 is very difficult. And so I thought this was interesting. I was surprised that a mainstream news outlet had even reported on this. And the name of the article is Inside the World of Men Who Swore Never to Sleep with Women Again. As you can see, you can't see the entire name because I cut off the right side because I'm not going to let advertisers from the Independent on one of my videos. I'm not going to advertise for the Independent, which is essentially, in my opinion, just another liberal rag. So you can read the article, though, and it says, men going their own way, MGTOW, believe men are always victims in relationships. And, of course, it was written by a woman. Oh, yes, if you want to write an article about men, who better to go to than a woman? Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Well, when you want to write a hit piece, it does, of course. So let's begin and see just how much she trashes MGTOW, misrepresents it, and totally misunderstands it. The First Rule of Fight Club, the 1999 film about an underground boxing club for men grappling with masculinity and dead-end jobs, was to never talk about Fight Club. Almost 2 decades after its release, tens of thousands of men have formed a real-life online community called MGTOW, or Men Going Their Own Way. Okay, so far, so good, although I believe it's more than tens of thousands, but all right. Their first rule, abandoning all romantic relationships with women. What the hell does that have to do with Fight Club? That's my first question. What's the relation? In Fight Club, you got a bunch of guys fighting underground, beating each other up, and then hugging each other and having some beer afterwards at the local pub or something. And that's their way of male bonding. I'm perfectly okay with that, but what the hell does that have to do with MGTOW? Absolutely nothing? Want to cast the movement in a spurious light? Well, just compare it to a movie that is essentially a spurious representation of men. All right, so make us look silly by comparing us to a movie group of men that in no way is related to MGTOW. All right, or maybe she's going to make some kind of a conflation later on that actually makes sense. We'll see. On Reddit alone, some 15,000 readers are subscribed to the MGTOW page, which declares it is for men going their own way by forging our own identities and paths to self-defined success. Nothing wrong with that. You want to define your own path. You don't want other people to choose for you. What's wrong with that? Nothing. Cutting through collective ideas of what a man is worth. Yes, we are against collectivism. That is most certainly true. Okay, so far, so good. So far, so good. She's representing us correctly. So far. Other websites, including MGTOW.com. I'm just waiting for the hammer to drop here because it's going to start to get into misrepresentation soon. I'm almost certain. Other websites, including MGTOW.com, are also dedicated to what they see as each man's fight for sovereignty of himself. That's true because we're constantly having to fight collective influences who want to use us and essentially become parasites and feed off our resources and manipulate us to do what they want to do. And despite of their hatred for there it is. There we go. There is the first hammer blow. Hatred for women. All right, let me tell you something, lady. We don't hate women. We hate the system that empowers them and that they have created to empower them, okay, that they put into place through their right, their power of the vote that they in no way have any right to have, that they didn't earn that privilege at all, okay? So that's what we have a problem with. We have a problem with that. We don't have a problem with women existing, and we don't hate women. We just understand women, and we know that attacking the system head on, which we can only do with the power of a vote, will have no use because we're the minority. And there's too many men out there who actually champion for women and vote the same way these women do, as if women are somehow an oppressed class who need their help. They're not. And despite their hatred for women, homosexuality isn't accepted. You see how she just slips that in there? She's saying real nice stuff, and then she throws in, and they hate women too, as if that's just a side note. Give me a break. Don't hate women. We just recognize reality, and that we're not going to change things by going after the system, talking about the system. Men empower the system through empowering women. We need to take away women's empowerment via taking away our resources. That's the only way we're going to get anywhere. Let us continue. Posts on Reddit page offer an insight into their world. You think? I'm not so sure it does, because you're looking at things through a very narrow lens of a woman with absolutely zero perspective into the male point of view. So I don't know how much perspective or insight you're going to get, honey, especially since you seem to be very biased in your views, and you're already misrepresenting us by saying we hate women. They ranged from worrying that future sex bots will be hacked by central government. Try to present us as a bunch of crackpots, why don't you? Yeah, they range. I don't know how many MGTOW out there are thinking that there will be sex bots in the future that are going to be plugged into some kind of a central server that the government can hack. I think subjects like that are relatively rare, and that's like just fringe shit. So she's immediately pointing out the fringe nutters that you're going to find in any movement, any group, anywhere in society. These are guys that are basically a little nutty or more than a little nutty, but they just happen to be in MGTOW. And she's going to use them, of course, these outliers, not the majority, just the minority, to represent the majority of MGTOW guys. Of course she is. She's going to take the lowest common denominator and use that as our spokespeople. Okay. Should have realized that. Of course I did. I knew this would be a hit piece from the start. Of course. That they will be hacked by government to encouraging men to divorce their wives. Well, I don't encourage guys to divorce their wives, actually. Because if they do, they're going to get ass raped. And they're going to essentially lose half their shit. So I don't encourage guys to divorce their wives. We encourage guys not to get married in the first place. If they're married, it'd be bad for them to get divorced because they'll lose everything, including their kids. So wrong again there. What's your name? Kashmira Gander? What the fuck kind of name is that? What country are you from anyway, honey? Was she born in the UK? I wonder. Even if she was, she's probably first generation, one of these wacko leftists. Who knows? Well, she's certainly a leftist, that's for sure. We don't encourage women to divorce their wives. Get that straight. She's already wrong, number one. I mean, she went to Reddit? Are you kidding me? Good Lord, honey, you need some better sources. That's her source for insight into MGTOW. Really? Crackpots and loons on that site. Jesus Christ. They also debate how even men in Hollywood are cuckolded and wronged by women. Well, I don't know what's wrong with that. I mean, that's somewhat true, but that's true everywhere in society. What's your point? Others discuss the merits of visiting prostitutes. Nothing wrong with that. If that's what floats your boat, I don't recommend it personally. I think even the guy that thinks of himself as the lowest rung on the totem pole can lie and use deceit and trickery to get laid. Of course, that's a lot of work. Honestly, that's true. So maybe prostitute's the best way to go. I mean, really, you're just paying them to leave anyway, and it's much more convenient. If you got the money, why not? And how pop songs are feminist propaganda. They are. Oh, come on. What about that Beyonce song? Jesus Christ. You women play that thing again and again and again and again and again, and it's ridiculous. It is pop. It is feminist propaganda. That's true. Come on. The more you scroll, the darker it becomes. Oh, my God. Oh, so pop songs being feminist propaganda is dark? Really? Honey, you have a really low threshold for being shocked and for dark shit. I mean, that's not dark in my mind. Give me a break. One recent post described how women fake orgasm often because it makes men more submissive. One post? So you're quoting one post to represent all of MGTOW. This is about the lamest, weakest article I've ever seen in my life. I mean, what the fuck are you doing? You dumb broad, you. So you're taking something one guy said, and you're trying to represent that as all of an entire movement. I could take that crazy broad, what's the big red with the giant head, who's always yelling and talking about men. By the way, why aren't you doing stories about feminism and depicting that one crazy broad who was out on the street yelling that it's great that men kill themselves because she bathes in male tears? I don't see you doing an article about that one crazy woman, but apparently it's okay to do an entire article about some one guy making some crazy comment, or a handful of guys making some crazy comments on a forum that is well known for crackpots. And you are trying to tell us that that's what the majority of MGTOW are like? I bet you would like people to think that, wouldn't you? You scumbag. Ay, ay, ay. Ridiculous. Another talked of ditching his blue pill friends because others proudly declare that they are still virgins. Well, a lot of women proudly declare that they're still virgins for religious reasons. Why couldn't a MGTOW guy do it? For MGTOW reasons. I mean, honestly, I got no problem with guys being virgins, quite honestly. Women are, in most cases, a waste of time. You bang them, and then there's not much else they're good for. You want to talk to somebody and say interesting stuff and have interesting conversations. You're not going to have it with a woman, I'll tell you that. You want to talk about politics. You want to talk about philosophy. You want to talk about society. You want to talk about anything interesting. You're not going to get it from a woman. Women are essentially a loser when it comes to having good conversation. So they're good for sex, and that's it. I don't have a problem with that. To each his own. Of course, you're trying to shame men and get us to fall into that old narrative of a man essentially validating himself through his sexual prowess and promiscuity with women. Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you, honey? That allows you to have more control over men. Sorry, not falling for it. I want sex and company, but I can't put in the effort to get it. Wrote another user on the MGTOW.com forum. I love it. Well, I have no problem with that. I mean, it just so happens, though, that he's a mistaken. I mean, it's so easy to get laid these days. Just go on Tinder. I mean, you're on the bus. You're on the train. You can just spend your time little dip, 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 dip with your giant sausage fingers. They make these fucking keys on the goddamn phones so friggin' small. You would think all these goddamn phones were made for women. I turn my phone on. Even I turn it sideways, where they got that function where the phone can sense what positions it's in. So you flip it sideways and the screen flips sideways and all the keys get bigger. Even then, they're too fucking small. It seems like everything in this fucking society was made for women. What about shit for men? Jesus Christ, have my fucking little type with the fucking pinky finger. I'm typing with my thumb sometimes. I mean, good God, you can't, though. Then you got to hold it in one hand, awkwardly as you're gripping the fucking pole in the train with your shoulder, and you're wrapped around the fucking thing, and you're trying to dip, 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 punch out little fucking messages with these little tiny keys with your giant fingers. Jesus Christ. Could it get any more ridiculous? Why don't they have phones that are man's phones and women's phones? Oh, no, we got to have equality. Phone is a phone. No man's phone. No women's phone. No, because that would be sexist, right? Fucking ridiculous. Just use Tinder, guys, or something like that. Like something like 33% of chicks on fucking dating websites will have sex on the first date. I mean, it's not that difficult to get laid. But if even that seems like an effort, who the hell are you to judge, lady? Who are you to judge them? Oh, you're a woman. Of course. It's in your nature to judge men and shame them. I see. Okay. The MGTOW community has a pretty clear set of expectations for themselves and the wider world that are based in meninism. What the fuck is that? Meninism. She's trying to essentially conflate MGTOW with feminism by popping in the name men, removing the femme, and putting in men. Meninism. Oh, that's so clever. That's so clever. That's something you would expect from a woman. Something that clever. Yeah. A counteraction to feminism, which sees women's rights directly disadvantage women. Lady, women's rights don't disadvantage men. It's governmental policies that disadvantage men. We don't. I mean, honestly, I have a problem with some of the things. Like, for example, women voting. They shouldn't have the right to vote simply because, they didn't earn it. And if there's a war and people get drafted, they're not going to be the first ones to. They're not going to go at all. They'll sit at home knitting and shit. Or they'll go get a fucking factory job or something because there's no men to work those jobs. Well, the men will be out there dying and getting their heads blown off. Yeah, they should have the right to vote, though. No. But other than that, I don't give a shit. She wants to work, whatever. That's her fucking business. I'm going to go my own way. She can go her own way, all right? My problem is with the government that empowers them. It is with the people who disenfranchise men so that they can empower women. That's how, because You can't make men and women equal. You can't. It's impossible. So the system actually does take away from and disenfranchise men. It's just like education. Let me give you a little education here. What's your name? Kashmira. Cashmere with Cashmere. Are you soft to the touch? Probably not. Well, maybe she is. She's probably a big fat pig. So I'm sure she's just like Casimir, except much fluffier and puffier, like the Michelin Man. Yeah, right. So, let me give you a perfect example of an inequality. Education. Men get shitty educations now because the education system has been geared toward women. It's no longer about educating both men and women. It is about educating women, and they have specially tailored the education system. They have specially tailored the curriculums to best serve the way that women learn. But then it totally ignores how men learn, and then men fall behind. That is what happens in society. That's what's happening everywhere. Then you have affirmative action where we're going to hire her because she's a woman, not on her merit. So yes, men are being directly disadvantaged from giving women more, and focusing too much on them. You dummy, you. Let us continue. So, while feminists might argue that their movement aims to help both men and women, that's a lie. That's a bunch of crap. That's just something they say that's so that you won't challenge them and so that they can say, oh, well, if you believe in equality between men and women, then you're a feminist too. By the way, I don't believe in equality between men and women. When you have to essentially do so many mental gymnastics and essentially reconstruct the system to the point we have, and women still aren't equal, no, I'm not for that at all. So feminists might argue that their movement aims to help both men and women break free of harmful gender stereotypes. What harmful gender stereotypes are you talking about? Oh, you don't give any examples. Okay. Meninists disagree. So now we're not MGTOW, we're meninists. What the fuck are you talking? What is a meninist? I've never heard this before. You leftists love to invent these words and attach these pejorative meanings to them, and they're not even real words. To them, men are victims of heterosexual relationships. In most cases, yeah. Comparable to a horse with a cart strapped to his back. Yeah, that's accurate. MGTOWs borrow heavily from the pop culture to explain their beliefs. No. All we're doing here is essentially using one scene with a pill and a pill. One pill is reality. One pill is you get to stand in the illusion. That's it. I don't think that's borrowing heavily. We're just using that as an example of representation of what we're talking about. And by the way, I think it's a pretty good example. Oh, but she wants to make it seem less valid, so they're taking all their crap from a movie. That's how valid and ridiculous their movement is. Particularly the film The Matrix, where the chosen one chooses to reject his blinkered blue pill life in favor of an awareness offered by the red pill. You should try taking that red pill, honey. Oh, but if you did, you would lose power and influence. Well, we can't have that, can we? The ultimate goal of MGTOWs is total freedoms to societal constraints known as level 4. Oh, my God. She's actually quoting that MGTOW level bullshit. That's just for fun, honey. That's just for MGTOW to like, oh, I'm that level. Oh, I'm this level. Just between themselves talking about where they are in the MGTOW hierarchy. But it doesn't actually exist. There is no level system. That's all bullshit. She's going off of Reddit articles. Give me a fucking break. Level 0 involves taking the red pill and recognizing gender equality is a sham. Well, it is a sham. You think it's real? Come box with me, honey. Let's get in the boxing ring and see how much I punch your face in and knock you out within the first 5 seconds. I'll have you on the fucking canvas. You think you're equal to me? Let's have a debate, honey. We'll see who wins. I'm pretty sure it won't be you. Of course, you'll use your typical leftist jargon and nonsense to deny and to deflect and change the arguments and use critical theory throughout the conversation to the point where you'll think you won because reality is so mutable in your mind that what is not possible and what did not happen actually did happen, right? Wishful thinking at its best. Yes, where your wishful thinking is reality. That is the leftist way of living. Wonderful. Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun to be in your world, honey, except it denies reality. Level 1 sees a man rejecting long-term relationships, but engaging in sexual encounters. Okay. Which he will reject in level 2. All right. Level 2. Really? Okay. This is just her quoting nonsense. As the MGTOW movement is entangled with alt-right and libertarian politics, No, no, no. Honestly, there are people who do have conservative values, but alt-right isn't even a real thing. There is no such thing as alt-right. That's another thing you people created to try and make certain people with certain beliefs some kind of alternative to the mainstream so they could be marginalized more. And libertarian politics. And the third step sees the man focusing on earning money in order to sustain himself. Oh, no, no, no. Wrong, wrong, la, 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 wrong. You're a fucking moron. Da, 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 da. This woman ain't too bright. We shouldn't be surprised. She probably got her job because she's a woman. Big shock, because I don't think she got this job on merit because she's an idiot. So, no, honey, we don't earn money to sustain ourselves. We focus on earning money to improve ourselves, to reach such a point in society that we are as successful as we can possibly be. It's called self-actualization. You should try it instead of using your gender to push yourself forward in society and to do better in life. Why don't you try doing that on merit and see how far you get? Oh, you wouldn't get very far, would you? Of course not. Now, this little interesting video they threw in there, I guess because they equate... Well, she's trying to conflate MGTOW and Japanese herbivores, I guess. Let's see what this has to say. Survey has revealed the Japanese... Anyway, we gotta go back. I mean, within the first 2 seconds, that was gone. I don't know why. New survey has revealed that Japan has a worrying number of virgins. You'd have to be like the Flash to be able to read that shit, how fast it went fucking by. Surveys revealed that 70% of unmarried men and 60% of unmarried women are not in a relationship. Woohoo! Excellent! Societal collapse coming soon. And they all look very happy, don't they? Right. It also revealed that around 42% of men and 44.2% of women admitted they were virgins. Holy shit, okay. Well... Okay, I got no problem with that. Again, they look like they're very happy people. They look very happy. They don't look unhappy. The study is carried out by Japan's National Institute of Population and Social Security Research over every 5 years. Okay, so essentially their idea of a census, except they're throwing in questions about sex and relationships and such because they're very worried about it. Catchy little tune. The Japanese government has said it wants to raise the nation's fertility rate from 1.4 to 1.8. Yeah, I bet you do, because your population is dropping fast. Free fall speeds. The Japanese government often offering better child care services and tax incentives for married couples. But you see, marriage is much more expensive than any taxes you might take from me unless you take like 80 to 90% of my money. Otherwise, it's still cheaper to stay single. But you keep offering those little carrots, and we're going to keep turning them down until you make it mandatory for us to get married and put a gun to our heads. And we still might say no even then. A booming industry surrounds Japan's growing condition of loneliness. I think you mean being alone. Of course, you want to present this as men being lonely. You don't want to just say they're alone. No, you want to imply that they're lonely, something you couldn't possibly know. Oh, this will be the Western world soon, I hope. Survey also found that for the first time, the proportion of women returning to the workforce after having the first child exceeded 50%. Woohoo! All right. You know, if this happens in the West, the society will totally collapse. But of course, if you had that level of separation between men and women in the West, which will be that way soon, things will return to parity. As it is, we have no parity, so you ladies will have no men and none of our resources. One can only hope. Let us continue. In this quest, obstacles include feminists, white knights. That's right. You see, it's the white knight that empowers the woman, okay? He's the one that sacrifices himself and allows her to continue to pout and complain and get everything she wants just by using the vagina, and then she can take the man's resources and can continue to have much more influence in society than she really should. Men who are chivalrous towards women. No, 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 honey. Don't use that word chivalry. It implies that we are beneath you. We are not beneath you. You are not superior to us. You do not deserve any of my chivalry. I have no chivalry for you. Social justice warriors, other feminists, male feminists, dummies, leftists, cultural Marxists, communists, those who are pro-LGBT rights, of course, because you created this intersectionality bullshit, so you all share the same oppressors, so you all come together and fight for each other. I see. And support safe spaces, among other things. Oh, and you support safe spaces too, I'm sure. You are an idiot. They are heroes, the so-called herbivore men of Japan. No, I don't really consider them my heroes at all. I think a lot of these herbivore guys, I'm not so sure about them and their motives for. Yeah, they seem to be different. Yeah, but I don't know. I've seen some of them. I'm not going to say anything about them. They're not my heroes, that's for sure. But what matters is the result, not the reasons. And I'm not sure that Japan had that big a problem with a lack of equality. It's hard to say. Although if they have women voting, well, yeah, I need to do more research. But their herbivore men is probably, well, of course they did, obviously. But their herbivore man problem, which I haven't done a lot of research into, to be honest, it just didn't interest me. It's not a unique phenomenon. It could be where we'll be in 15, 20 years in the West. For different reasons, I believe, but, it's the result. It's important. Men of Japan who have no interest in finding long-term female partners. Well, that's good. A label with which half of men in their 20s and 30s identify. Ooh, that's a lot. The origins of MGTOW are unclear, she says. No, I don't think they are. You've always had it. You've always had MGTOW, okay? Because there's always been the Bachelor in society, all right? Yeah, it's just getting more of a specific name. Excuse me. It's just getting more of a specific name. That's all. Okay? Oh, really? Oh, this is very interesting. The MGTOW website loftily suggests, you mean the Reddit MGTOW site where any crackpot comes on and espouses his hatred of women and nut jobs, and he sees the name MGTOW, and he says he's a MGTOW because he wants to have something to identify with and have people who are going to feel sympathetic with him, as he waxes crazily about nutty stuff, and you chose those people to be the representatives of MGTOW. Why? Oh, because you want to cast us in a bad light. You want to cast us in a spurious light. You want to make us look like a bunch of tin hat wearing fools and morons, just like you do on TV and in the media. I see. The MGTOW website loftily suggests their ideals hark back to Schopenhauer, Tesla, Beethoven, Galileo, or even Jesus Christ. Well, Jesus Christ didn't actually exist. We have no evidence for that. But whatever, ladies. What freaking ever. MGTOW is not as old as fire, but it's as old as man's first discovery of it. If MGTOW is fire, then perhaps feminism is gasoline. Reads the MGTOW.com history page. A more concrete theory is that MGTOW was created by online aliases Solaris and Ragnar in the 2000s. Lady, you ain't done your research. You don't know anything about men. Why are you commenting on something you know nothing about? When they penned a manifesto calling for men and women to... Oh, here's that manifesto again. I'm getting tired of hearing about this friggin' manifesto. Lady, this manifesto is not MGTOW. You are so stupid. You are so stupid. There's two guys trying to profit on a movement that they want people to believe they had more of a hand in than they actually did. When they penned a manifesto calling for men and women to adhere to traditional gender roles, that's not even MGTOW. That's not even MGTOW, you idiot. How are men going their own way if they're adhering to traditional gender roles? And the fight for pared back government. So let me get this straight. Men going their own way isn't actually men going their own way. It's getting married, just somehow making the woman adhere to her traditional female gender role, even though you have no way to do that because the law favors her. You get married. She gets everything. What the hell weapon do you have? What kind of incentive, what kind of way do you have to get her to adhere? How stupid is that? How could you call that MGTOW? She don't know what she's talking about. And while their communities may be virtual, their determination seems very real indeed. Yeah, I bet that scares the shit out of you, honey. Let's see some of these comments. This is a pretty reasonable take on MGTOW. You are a moron. The modern day relationship landscape is equal to being handed a bowl of Cheerios in which most of the Cheerios are poisoned. Right on. Very good. My journey into MGTOW was one of observation and a few negative experiences early on. It came down to being a choice of how much time one dedicated to chasing women and the ramifications of a relationship with a woman. In the current day and age, there really is no benefit to man marrying or even living with a woman. Correct. For me, MGTOW is not about rejecting, hating women. I still find women the most exciting, beautiful thing on the planet. But the constructs like marriage, which are so heavily weighted towards women, 90% of all family court cases are awarded to the woman, even if she was the one who instigated the breakup to leave for a richer man, that any man would have to be brain dead now to even think about marriage. And pretty much 95% of these comments are essentially saying the same thing, and this woman is way off. And the other 5% are, of course, feminists, women pretending to be men, and cucks and manginas. So that is a mainstream news outlet in the UK in 2016. That is their take on MGTOW from essentially, get this, looking at Reddit. That seems to be the majority, or maybe even the whole, of her research. Wow, she really took this article seriously. Good Lord. Well, of course, the media has sunk so low in recent history that I'm not surprised that this woman would think she's a journalist and that she would take her job and the writing of this article with such a lack of seriousness that she would have one freaking source for all her information, which is Reddit. Good God. Talk about a loony bin, that website. Oy vey. So I hope you enjoyed. Wanted to give people a glimpse into how we might be or are being presented to the world in the very limited amount of times that we have been presented. You're not going to find very many articles or news reports of any kind talking about MGTOW. And when you do, it's going to look just like this hit piece, this bullshit that in no way accurately represents the movement and just uses the outlier nutters that you're going to find everywhere in society and says, oh, this is a man. Oh, what this man? Oh, so this is all men. Oh, this crazy crackpot is posting on Reddit. He says he's a MGTOW. Oh, so that's MGTOW. And that's essentially the extent of this woman's logic and reasoning abilities, which is why I brand her Moron of the Week. I am the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.